Start first with our gentleman on the right, not necessarily politically, he can tell us whether or not that's the case, but nonetheless it's Mike. But it is interesting, isn't it? You've got the Tories, Labour, Lib Dem and the Greens, but I promise you I didn't design the seating like this. Quick bit of background on Mike. Former leader of Barnet Council, I'm told, stood in Harrow West in 2005, is that right? Didn't get elected on that occasion, but certainly did in 2010 for the current constituency. The public whip tells us his voting record is 85.8%, which is really, really good. It's a very, very good voting record. You might not agree with all of the votes, but the mere fact that he is there, you might agree with some, you might not agree with the others, but the mere fact that he's voting certainly shows he's not the kind of MP who doesn't turn up, is the point. In autumn 2013, Mike was appointed Parliamentary Private Secretary to the Right Honourable Eric Pickles, Secretary of State for Communities and Local Government. He was appointed PPS to Nick Bowles later. Mike resigned his position in order to vote in the 2014 backbench motion on Palestinian statehood. Mike opposed the motion on Palestinian statehood and said he was appalled the motion was passed by MPs. Mike's a member of the Conservative Friends of Israel, Conservative Friends of Cyprus and Conservative Friends of India. Also the chairman for the party's Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender Advisory Board. Okay. Oh, sorry, one more thing. In 2008, he was the leader of Barnet Council. The Jewish Chronicle puts him in its Power 100 list for shaping Jewish life. All right? So that's Mike. So let's move on to Sarah. Sarah studied history at Cambridge and completed a master's at Harvard Law School. Works as a barrister and specializing in public planning and environmental law, representing individuals, NGOs, and public bodies. She teaches a course on urban politics and law at the LSE, and for many years has volunteered at Toynbee Hall, giving free legal advice and support to vulnerable Londoners. She says she is from a strongly Jewish family, a Zionist family. Does that sound about right? Anything you'd like to add to the bio?
We can talk about it.
We can talk about it.
That pretty much covers it.
Pretty much covers it, right? Okay, so now we move to our Lib Dem candidate, Jonathan Davies. Councillor in the Childs Hill Ward, is that how you pronounce it?
Yep.
Childs Hill Ward, in the 1990s, yeah. Stood as a PPC in Finchley and Golders Green in the 97 election, won 5,670 votes, finishing third in the constituency in that year. Former National Vice President of Liberal Democrats and Vice Chair of the Lib Dem Friends of Israel, and Treasurer at the Golders Green Synagogue. Is there just one synagogue in Golders Green? Or is there the main one? Sorry, I apologise. My team hasn't given me correct notes. Golders Green United Synagogue, that is, yeah? And then we have Adele Ward from the Green Party, who owns a local company, Wardwood Publishing. Is that right? Wardwood Publishing. An author and an academic. Has lived in the area or nearby. I'm not quite sure what that means, yeah? But nonetheless, has lived in the area or nearby since 1979 and bought her 2 sons up there. Brilliant. So a round of applause for everybody if that's right then. So let's start, as I say, 60 seconds for each panellist, with Mike, we might as well on the right, to tell you why he should be your next MP.
Thank you. And also correct the organisations. I'm also a member of the Conservative Middle East Council. But the reason I'm standing for re-election is because I think I've got a strong track record, not only being local and living locally. Many of you will have known that I bring my advice surgeries here into the mosque on a regular basis to ensure that the community's voice is heard, even if we don't always agree on every topic. I've been involved here with the community since about 1992, when the mosque first sought planning permission for this building, and obviously recent planning permissions too. In terms of my record here is about helping people on local issues. The surgeries are about jobs and housing and immigration, bread and butter issues facing the local community. I am a member of the old party group, both on anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. To me, they are the two sides of the same coin, and I abhor and oppose all forms of discrimination in whatever shape it takes. And my job is to ensure that not only is your voice heard, but also that we address some of the underlying causes of Islamophobia. And that's been my commitment locally over the past 5 years, and that's my commitment going forward if I'm re-elected for the next 5 years. That's it. That's my minute.
Thank you very much. Pretty much in a minute. Sarah.
Well, it's wonderful to be back here at the North Finchley Mosque. I've had the good fortune to visit here a couple of times. I grew up in a community a bit like yours, where people were used to taking time out from their day to pray, where people are careful about the food that they consume, separating permitted foods from non-permitted foods, and also from a community which is as interested in the affairs that go on in other parts of the world as they are on the affairs of our own community. And I grew up here in Finchley and Golders Green, where the values that I grew up with of diversity and tolerance, of the mixed community in which we live, those very values have informed my politics and my decision to stand for the Labour Party, a party committed to social justice, fairness and greater equality. And the fact is that the issues affecting the Muslim community are those that affect non-Muslims as well. Whether it's the struggle to get onto the housing ladder and get affordable rent, whether it's accessing NHS services in your local GP, whether it's the support that our public services need from libraries, parks, social care for the elderly. Those are issues that affect us whether we're Muslim or non-Muslim alike, and it's on those issues that I remain committed and that I will focus on if I'm elected as your MP.
Okay, thank you very much. Jonathan.
I'm Jonathan Davis. Firstly, I didn't say anything about the coalition government, but I'm proud as part of the coalition government to be defending its record to be defending its record in particular on improving the economy, and also doing that in a way that is fair for all, that's delivered tax cuts for low and middle income families, not just for millionaires. And the more votes the Liberal Democrats achieve in this election, the more we will be able to deliver in the next Parliament, in particular, to carry on delivering tax cuts for low and middle income families, to deliver a stronger economy, but also a fairer society for everyone, taking a strong stance protecting the Human Rights Act, taking a strong stance against discrimination of all types, religious and racial. As Chairman said, I come from a Jewish background. And one thing that I'm very conscious of, and that I say very frequently in Jewish communal organisations, is how much in common people of all faiths, particularly Jewish and Muslim communities, have in the community.
Thank you very much. Adele.
Yes, to explain that, I've lived most of my adult life in Finchley and Golders Green, with a few years in Italy, which were very nice, and with a few in Maida Vale, but mostly in Finchley and Golders Green. And yes, I'm an author, journalist, publisher, academic doing a PhD. Hope to be working at the Royal Holloway teaching next year, but I'd much rather you elected me, in which case I will drop a lot of that work and do that. Bringing my children up here, living here since I was a student, starting my career here, I really know this area inside out. I know all of your issues, especially because I worked for 4 years in Garden Suburb Primary School in the playground, part-time, because I needed someone there. I got to know the children there. I got to know a lot of Muslim children. I still know them. They're between the ages of 17 and 19, like my children now. And I can recognise a lot of the issues you're talking about in the Muslim Manifesto, the needs of those children in school, any kind of racism or prejudice that comes out. But also now our policies resolve many of these issues, not just because we fight discrimination, but we're very egalitarian, but also we're committed to the obligation to provide apprenticeship for teenagers leaving school so they get the jobs you're asking for. We're committed to build genuinely affordable social housing and regulate and licence land laws so children can afford to live near their family and the environment, which I should really much more.